Hi, I'm WTOP film critic Jason Fraley, and all month of August we're breaking down my favorite movies in every genre. 30 genres over 30 days, and today we're talking about one of my all-time favorites, my favorite musicals. Now, like the horror movies yesterday, this was another one that was one of the hardest to narrow down. I had to cut off some of my all-time favorite musicals, just because there really wasn't enough spots here. 25, when I got to think about all the great musicals over the years, there just wasn't enough. But I think we got it down to the cream of the crop here, and so we wanted to divide it up with classics and more modern ones. And so first, let's talk about the classics that I included in here. Of course, you have to include Busby Berkeley. I mean, you've seen the Coen brothers and everyone spoofing, but those big, almost kaleidoscopic dance numbers, where it's 42nd Street and Gold Diggers of 1933, which is where they sing "We're in the money," and then what was the other one in the trilogy? Footlight Parade. They call that the Gold Diggers trilogy. Busby Berkeley, where Footlight Parade is where they have the big on the waterfall. Where's the big waterfall sequence, and all the dancers are swimming around, and they're almost like synchronized swimming. They're forming all these cool things. Has to be in there for classic musicals. Of course, the Astaire Rogers pictures. Of course, Top Hat is probably the most famous when they out there dancing cheek to cheek. But I think the one they made the next year, Swing Time, is their best. 1936. That last final dance where they're doing all the spinning around. I'm almost crying thinking about it. I love that movie. And Ginger did everything he did, but backwards in high heels. Let's not forget that. All right, Meet Me in St. Louis. Judy Garland falls for her director, Vincent Minnelli, and together they birth Liza Minnelli. So if you like Cabaret, which is also on here, or any other Liza movies, it wouldn't exist without this movie. This is where they fell in love. But so many good songs. I love how Minnelli frames Judy Garland, like frames within a frames. It's so, and they go through the 4 seasons of, fall, winter, spring, summer, building up to the World's Fair. But man, the clang, clang, clang went the trolley, and the title song, of course, Meet Me in St. Louis. And then, of course, the most famous one that a lot of people forget was birthed here, the Christmas song, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. It didn't exist before this movie. So Meet Me in St. Louis is a must. Then we get another Minnelli, An American in Paris. Man, if you've seen La La Land or any number of other movies that have those dream ballets at the end, it was all started here. Gene Kelly doing that soft shoe along the River Seine with Leslie Caron of Gigi to the song It's Very Clear Our Love Is Here to Stay. I love that movie, all those Gershwin songs. The King and I, Yul Brynner as the King of Siam, and Deborah Kerr as the, Deborah Carr is how you pronounce it, it's spelled Kerr, I always say that. As she comes in and gets to know all of his many kids, getting to know you, getting to know all about you, and then of course it's a very feminist movie if you look at it. I mean, yes, some other parts are dated, but man, if you look at how she comes in and really, takes over this really patriarchal, king top down, you must be below me, you must lay low on the floor than me. No, she really stands up to him, and then by the end, they're on their equal footing for shall we dance, shall we dance, shall we dance. I could go on, but I'll just say, etc., etc., etc. So, My Fair Lady, another one that I guess you could say kind of the opposite of King and I, feminist. That hasn't really held up as much in the Me Too era because you have Henry Higgins really doing the whole, the Pygmalion thing where it's, getting this little, he's trying to change Eliza Doolittle, and I don't know if it really holds up with the themes, but George Cukor directs the crap out of this. Go back and look at it. It's really well done. It was Best Picture 64, but so many good songs. I mean, yes, Audrey Hepburn is, she's getting voiced over here, like used to happen a lot, Marnie Nixon. So all those great songs about I Could Have Danced All Night and The Rain in Spain Stays Mainly in the Plane, all those songs. Yes, On the Street Where You Live, there's so many good. Wouldn't It Be Loverly? Get Me to the Church on Time, like so many good songs. But I had to drop it a few slots because her voice was dubbed over. And then above it, I have Mary Poppins. I mean, come on. The reason I want to put them together is because one of my favorite trivia facts of all time was that Julie Andrews was Eliza Doolittle. On Broadway is My Fair Lady. When Hollywood decides to make it, they say, we'll bring over the whole cast, but Julie Andrews, no one knows who you are. You should go find something else. We want the movie star. We want Audrey Hepburn, Breakfast at Tiffany's, the big star. And so Julie Andrews just puts her head down and says, all right, I'm going to go do Mary Poppins. And then on Oscar night, Andrews wins Best Actress over Audrey Hepburn for Mary Poppins, and it's easy to see why. I mean, so many good songs. A Spoonful of Sugar, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, Let's Go Fly a Kite, Walt Disney's favorite song of all of his movies, even the animated ones. He loved Feed the Birds, Tuppence a Bag. Then you get all the stuff with Van Dyke, with, Chim Chim Cheree, and Step in Time. There's so many songs in this movie that are just unbelievable. Definitely Dick Van Dyke and Julie Andrews in Mary Poppins. It just makes me smile. We also get, of the classics, The Sound of Music, another Julie Andrews. Come on, The Hills Are Alive, that big opening number spinning around in the mountains, the Swiss Alps. We also get, there's so many songs. A few of my favorite things, Raindrops on Roses. We get Doe, a deer, a female deer, Edelweiss. So Long Farewell, Auf Wiedersehen, Goodbye. There's so many great songs. The Sound of Music has to be, I think, in the top 5 of anyone's. We get Funny Girl. We get Umbrellas of Cherbourg. And I love Funny Girl, by the way. Barbara Streisand singing Don't Rain on My Parade, and People Who Need People. I mean, that's just iconic stuff. And then, I guess to round out the classics, Oliver. Please, sir, I want some more. Oh, you want some more? All right, we got some modern ones for you. Now, that was a lot of classics, but of the modern ones, there are some good ones here. We get movies like Cabaret. That's when things started to change. Bob Fosse was starting to get a little edgier here, and that's Liza doing a really big critique of, like, on the doorstep of Nazi Germany taking over. Go back and look at it. It's eerily prescient. We also get the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I struggled where to put that in there, but it's such a cult classic. I snuck it into here in musicals. We also get Grease. I mean, come on. They just did a screening down on the Georgetown waterfront, and everyone was singing the songs. It was perfect for an outdoor summer nights because the songs, Summer Love and Have Me a Blast. But there's so many good songs. I think the most underrated is Hopelessly Devoted to You. Go back and listen to that. Olivia Newton-John belts that. Of course, then you get Travolta doing Grease Lightning. You get the hand jive with the, how's it? It's something like that, come on. We also get We Go Together like Rama Lama Lama. Kadingity Dinkadong. I think that's the lyrics. And of course, You're the One That I Want. And then Dr. Channing singing There Are Worse Things I Could Do. It's just from top to bottom. So many good songs. Moulin Rouge. I know Baz Luhrmann can be polarizing. He's such a flashy style. And in this, it's so postmodern. He's weaving together a bunch of famous pop songs from Phil Collins to Whitney Houston to U2 to, all, especially during that, there's that Elephant Love medley. But maybe you would be put off by it. I know our Jack Pointer hates this movie. I kind of like it. I think it's kind of charming, and I love how they repurpose stuff. I'll give Luhrmann some due here. He's got to go on the list somewhere. So I go Moulin Rouge. I think Nicole Kidman and Ewan McGregor singing together on top of that mountain and spinning around with the sparkles during that medley where these like, love lifts us up where we... And it's just, I think it's great. But there's even some original songs like Come What May. I mean, come on. It just melts me. All right, but then also some newer ones. We get Chicago. That won Best Picture in 2002. We get Catherine Zeta-Jones singing All That Jazz. And then, of course, Renee Zellweger, too, as Roxy Hart. To me, I think it's kind of overrated, but I don't want to say that. No, scratch it from the record. I love it. It's really, really good. I just think it's more of a middle of the pack for me. If people put it towards the top, I'd say, no, it's more mid-level of the top 25 for me. But it's so well done. It is, it's like, man, it won Best Picture. Actually, I think it deserves a lot of credit for revitalizing the musical for that and Moulin Rouge. Musicals were kind of dead there, other than Disney. Animated was the only one doing it, but Chicago really brought it back, and it's a classic. And then I think super polarizing from literally just last year or 2 years ago, La La Land. If you've been listening to WTOP, you know I'm obsessed with this movie. I saw it 7 times, but I know a lot of you cheered when it got knocked off and Moonlight beat it for Best Picture in that famous envelope gaffe. Personally, I was like, why do we have to love one or the other? Why do we have to write hit pieces and think pieces over 3 months of award season and either love one or the other? I think they're both amazing, and even Barry Jenkins, who made Moonlight, and Damien Chazelle, who won the Oscar for Best Director for La La Land, even they were like, dude, these movies are, you know how long movies take to put together? Like, they had no idea they'd be going against each other as the white jazz movie versus the black coming of age gay movie. No, they had no idea. It just happened that they came out at the same time. I don't see why. Moonlight won Best Picture, La La Land won Best Director. They're both masterfully done. But the reason I love La La Land is, yes, there's those great opening musical numbers like Another Day of Sun on the Highway, and all when they're getting ready to go out for the party, for Somewhere in the Crowd. But to me, where I was midway through the movie, I was like, I don't know, is it going to be a good movie or a masterpiece? And it went to masterpiece for me in the final third. Yes, it's heartbreaking. Yes, it's bittersweet. But the way the movie wraps around on itself with the Dream Ballet, and their Emma Stone is turning off the highway and happens to go to Seb's Jazz Club, and then they envision what life could have been, and then suddenly they're even watching home movie footage of what their kids that they could have had, and I'm in tears. And by the time it wraps back around to Seb at the piano, the notes almost sound like teardrops on the piano. Justin Hurwitz, Oscar-winning score. I think it's great. Chazelle killed it. Emma Stone won Best Actress. Gosling, he did. I mean, yes, they're not Astaire and Rogers, right? So, all right, I know you knocked the movie because they're not that, but come on, man. I think it's kind of charming. All right, we can agree to disagree. La La Land is one of the best musicals ever. Now, of all those great musicals, seriously, I just listed some of my favorite movies right there in the top 25. But the top 3, there was no other answer for me. Number 3, I have West Side Story. In terms of a Broadway musical, like just straight show tune, songbook, it's probably my favorite of all time. But in terms of the movie musical, I put it at 3 because Natalie Wood and the lead guy who plays Tony, they don't actually sing, they're dubbed over, which is when I heard Spielberg was going to remake it, I at first was like, how dare they? And then the more I thought about, oh wait, Natalie was dubbed over. All right, let's see what they do with it. That's why it's at number 3 for me. But in terms of the straight music from Broadway, come on, nothing. It's my favorite stuff to hear tonight, and especially the reprise when they're all together, like, before the big fight, when they're all cutting around to all 5 of them, and, we're counting on them to be there tonight, and it's cutting back and forth. It's great. We also get Tony and Maria singing Somewhere, there's a place for us. We also get the dance at the gym. We get the big opening number where they're snapping. I mean, everyone knows the snapping, but the Sharks and the Jets, which of course, it's all Romeo and Juliet, Montagues and Capulets, but a musical in New York by Robert Wise here. But to me, it all comes down to George Chakiris as Bernardo and Rita Moreno as Anita singing America. And if you think about these warring gangs in New York City in the 60s, think about, we're still dealing with a lot of that today. She sings, Puerto Rico versus America, and they do that big song, and the whole line is, life is all right in America if you're all white in America. And so, like, that's really ahead of its time, especially in the 60s. You could see why they're talking about it with the civil rights movement. But look around today, not much different. So West Side Story is a must. I Feel Pretty, Be Cool Boys. I mean, the list goes on and on. Has to be in the top 3. Number 2. This is where this one really killed me to put it 2, but when you see my number 1, you'll go, okay, I get it. My number 2 is the AFI's number 1 musical of all time, Singin' in the Rain. Easily could be number 1. Even now I'm thinking maybe I should have put it, but no, you'll see. Singin' in the Rain. Oh my God, I love this movie. I am just smiling ear to ear when I think of this movie. 1952. Stanley Donen and Gene Kelly co-directed, and the whole subject matter is about the transition from silent movies to talkies. And we have this silent star, Don Lockwood, and Lena Lamont, who has a horrible voice. So while Gene Kelly's Don Lockwood can easily make the transition, his famous co-star, his leading lady, can't make the transition because her voice sounds like I can't stand him. And they're like, the studios are like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? The jazz singer ruined everything by bringing talking into this. What are we gonna do? And so they come up with the idea, let's make it a musical and we'll dub over her voice with someone that can actually sing, the great, rest in peace, late great, Debbie Reynolds, singing Good Morning, Good Morning. It's so charming, that whole dance. Donald O'Connor singing and doing all the pratfalls and backflips to Make 'em Laugh, Make 'em Laugh. That is one of my favorite sequences in movie history. God, when they're singing in, what is it, like 50,000 Watts of Stardust with the big purple backdrop and they're singing I Was Meant for You, it's just so great. But of course, the title number, Gene Kelly splashing on the beat. And I think he had like a 100-degree fever when he shot it, so even more impressive. But he's just singing in the rain, and he's splashing around, and he does the big thing with the umbrella, the big iconic moment on the lamppost. Come on, nothing's more iconic than that. But it is just the way, it's the classic Hollywood MGM Technicolor musical. Really, you can't think of anything more iconic than that, except the movie that I put number 1, The Wizard of Oz. Now you see why it was so hard to put Singing in the Rain at 2, but it was like, all right, Oz has to go on. It's the most famous movie of all time. What we could have done is we could have put it in fantasies, I know. But if you really go back and look at it, I think it's mostly a musical. It has the AFI's pick for the number 1 song of all time, which is Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I mean, Judy Garland singing that back in the black and white sepia, Kansas. Nothing is more iconic than that. I could tear up thinking about her singing that because it's, yes, in the movie it's this girl waiting to go off on this big adventure and she has to come home to herself before she can see Kansas in color in a weird way. And, you know, there's no place like home. The message is so great. But that song applies to anyone who, you know, you could be living in a small town anywhere in the world, or even if it's not a small town, but anyone that wants to break free and see what else is out there and go on a journey. You have to go on this journey in life before you can come back and appreciate the little things like your Auntie M's and Uncle Henry's in your life. But of course, all the great songs. This is why it's a musical. Literally from start to finish, they're singing everything. So she lands in Oz, and Glinda the Good Witch. Are you a good witch or a bad witch? Her and the Munchkins are singing that whole thing. You know, it really was no miracle. What happened was just this. The wind began to... I mean, literally, it's all sung. Ding dong, the witch is dead. You know, as coroner, I honored her. I mean, they sing the whole thing. They're telling the story. And then from there, we get follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road. Each time she encounters one of her friends along the way, we get a song. So the Scarecrow goes, I could while away, if I only had a brain. Then we get the Tin Man singing, if I only had a heart. I mean, then we get the Lions singing, if I only had the knife. And then, of course, they all interlock arms and the repeating song of, we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. I mean, the whole thing is a musical. They get to Emerald City. They're singing, it's a horse of a different color, and it's ha, 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 ha. And it's all musicals. If I were the king of the forest, it's all musicals. It's a musical. But yes, so many great lines in this. I think it's the most quoted movie, most famous movie of all time. Pay no attention behind the man behind the curtain. Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. A horse of a different color. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too. It's the most iconic Hollywood movie, 1939 Technicolor movie. Judy Garland, Tin Man, Lion, Scarecrow, Wicked Witch, Glinda, the Wizard. The Wizard? The Wizard? Number 1 musical of all time. See my full top 25 musicals on WTOP.com's entertainment page. Join the blog and let us know what you think we got right, what we think you got wrong. And then join us tomorrow as we break down my favorite mysteries.